So we're going to go ahead and get started. What I'm going to do in just a moment is actually share my screen with you so that we can go through the app on our wireless device. Now, before we jump in, just to give you a little bit of context about the development of this specific tool. So as you may have heard on the initial call that many of you were on regarding activating the line and our strategy overall, Hay Group has designed a suite of apps to really help organizations and HR professionals activate their line managers. Now, as it relates to this particular application, we hear a lot from our clients that people go through these very exciting programs around leadership development. And once they come out of these programs, they have the best intentions to follow through. However, certainly work gets in the way. So what we're doing is we've actually released an application that goes hand in hand with our leadership styles and climate assessment that really helps organizations empower their leaders and their line managers to really learn new behaviors and new leadership styles. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to jump into the demo and show you the app itself. So in just a moment, you should be seeing the screen for, here we go, for the particular app. Now, one thing I will say is there on the upper right-hand corner, if you do enlarge your screen, it will take up the whole screen. It's a bit easier to see, so feel free to do that at this time. Now, this is what it looks like once we log into the app itself. As you can see, we have the three apps across the top, our job pricing, our job grading, and our styles and climate app. We also have two items there, My Plan and My People. What I'm going to do is briefly show you the My People feature. Now, if you think about a particular leader or line manager, they really need to know who are all of their people that are their direct reports. As you can see, this is reflected here in the My People section. For this particular demo, we're using an account of a regional sales manager, and as you can see, they have people all across the globe in different positions, and you can see as we scroll here. Now, this piece will play very nicely into the app, and you'll notice once we go through the demo how that is done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go directly into the Styles and Climate application. So I'm going to select the third square there, and this is the screen that you will be able to see. So once the individual has come in here, the next step is incorporating and importing all of the details and results from their particular assessment. So remember what we mentioned earlier. People come out of these assessments, they go through the feedback sessions, and they start understanding things that they should incorporate in their everyday life. So one of those things is really understanding, okay, here are my results based on my 180 assessment, here is my range of styles, and here is the climate that I am creating. So once they've gone through this, they can, as you can see here at the bottom, either scan a QR code, which will be located on the back of the PDF feedback report, or enter the feedback manually. I'm going to select Enter the Feedback Manually here. I've already entered some results from the assessments and select Done. So what you can see here now is a summary of the results from this particular individual's leadership styles and climate assessment. At the top, you can see their range of styles, and below, their overall climate results. And we'd be happy to share some additional details on the assessment themselves so that you can get familiar with some of the verbiage. From this particular individual's feedback, it appears that their range of styles is fairly limited. And below, the overall climate that is being created based on their results is below average. Now, certainly, once an individual has gone through the feedback process, this information would have been shared with them through an accredited user or Hay Group consultant. So once we have imported the results, we select Continue, and then we get started on really improving and developing our leadership styles. So as you can see here, we go to a roadmap. Now, if we scroll down, multiple items are locked. So we have to go one by one. Now, all of this is based on Hay Group's research, and we will unlock each individual item as we go along through the process and plan. Each item takes approximately 4 to 6 weeks. So, with many individuals, clarity is an area that we really need to focus on to get started. So what we'll do is we'll select Design My Plan, and then we will tell the system whether we want it to create a plan for us or design our own personalized plan. Now, I'm going to go ahead and select Create a Plan for me. What's great about the system is there's a lot of customization that still can be added. So for example, if an individual has gone through their own session and they've identified some tips that they would like to add based on their coaching, they can actually add their own item. So now that we're into the system, let's talk about what happens next. So what we're focusing on, as you can see here at the top, is clarity. Now what needs to happen is that we have to select multiple micro tips, specifically 5 micro tips that are one-on-one, 4 team micro tips, and then one-time activity. Now, so you're probably asking, what are these? Micro tips are exactly that. They are tips that are very small and can be embedded into someone's everyday work schedule throughout time. So as you can see here, specifically as it relates to clarity, we can see that from the experts, meaning Hey Group, or as well as the internal OD department, we can see what are some of those micro tips that really have an impact on clarity and improving clarity. Now the first one, just as an example, as you can see here, it's explain the rationale or why when you assign a task to an employee, or schedule time with an employee to talk about how his or her role contributes to the success of the team. So as you can see, these are things that can be embedded every day, and they're items that typically can take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. Really, they can be embedded on one-on-one discussions that managers typically have with their direct reports or team meetings as it relates to the team activities. Now, a couple of things to note here. When I select on this, you'll notice the star rating. I'm going to select that just a moment. This is where crowdsourcing really comes into play. So as you probably have experienced on multiple other websites, you do have the ability now to really create a social component and really work with other individuals that are working towards a common goal. In this particular case, as you can see here, and these are all sample reviews, but multiple individuals have reviewed this particular micro tip. So some global sales managers, specifically at Hey Group, as well as this could be external organizations, have explained the rationale of why or when you assign a task to an employee, and here's their chance to really provide some additional tips or their particular review on how it went. Now, when you think about this, there's a couple of ways that organizations can really get creative here. They can keep this open only to their organizations and their teams, or they can really utilize the tool to its maximum potential and keep this open for other firms. So envision an individual coming in here and saying, okay, I'm going to do this particular tip. Here is a review from X multinational or Fortune 100 organizations that we'd also like to move towards. Of course, all of this is configurable. So if organizations would like to turn off that feature, that can be done. Now, what we need to do here is just select our 5 one-on-one activities that we're going to do. So we've selected 5, as you can see. Now, one thing to note here is we can also add our own tips. So as you can see here, add my own tip. Those can be added by users. Now, on the second tab, once we've added our own tips, my additions will appear here. We can also see other tips that users have added from our organization or other micro tips that users have had added from external organizations. So again, this is where the social component or crowdsourcing comes into play, where organizations can also network with other organizations externally or their own to really help improve leadership styles and different micro tips. So once we've selected our 5 activities, we'll go ahead and select Continue at the bottom. And now we'll move on to our team activities. So now you'll see here there's a couple of things that we can do. First, again, we can add our own tip. So if we're meeting with the coach one-on-one or we have an activity that we'd like to incorporate into our team activities, we can do so. It'll also prompt us for our standard team meeting day and time. That way we can have these scheduled accordingly, and we'll show you that in just a moment. And again, we can add micro tips from the experts, so it can be Hey Group's time-tested micro tips, or also some written by our internal OD folks, as well as our own. As we scroll down here, you can see we've selected 4, so we can move ahead. So we'll go ahead and select Continue again. So finally, on the last piece, we're on the one-time activity. So this is where we actually select one particular activity that we only would conduct one time. And you can see these are a little different. So for the first one, adjust the structure of your team to better align with your business priorities, write the vision of what your team will look like. These are really kind of after we've gone through some of those one-on-one and team activities, ways to think about how we can really change or really impact our team through these different activities that affect clarity. So once we've selected one and we provide a due date, we can select done. So now what we've done, just to recap, we've gone through the selection of one-on-one activities, 5 specifically that will be scheduled with our direct reports. We can see the confirmation there at the top that has been done. We've selected 4 team activities, and we've selected one one-time activity. Now, what it's going to do automatically is it is going to schedule these items throughout the course of about 4 to 6 weeks. Now, what we can see here, if we scroll down, is a couple of things. First, it will track our completion. So as we start checking items off, it will track how we're doing at the top from a percentage. It'll also track points and achievements, which we'll actually get into in just a moment. Now, if we scroll down here, you can see the full to-do list. Now, what's really great about this is it actually takes the items and schedules them on each specific date and for the one-on-one activities with the individuals from the My People. So this is where the My People really plays into the Styles and Climate app and starts scheduling these activities with these individuals. So we can see for today, we selected a to-do date. Certainly we want to select a date for our one-time activity that probably coincides with either mid or at the end of our full program. But we can see for tomorrow, we need to meet with Adam and help connect the organizational mission to his personal aspirations. Again, on the 19th, remember, we did mention that our team meeting was there. So as such, we have a team item that's scheduled as well as a one-on-one activity with Andrew Hesman. So as we go through these items, what we'll do is we'll just check them off. So I'm going to select the box here and say, okay, we've met with Adam, we've had a quick discussion about this item, so what do we do next? We check it off. Now, a couple of things to keep in mind. This is where we can actually provide our review, which can be viewed however the organization designates. So it can be done in a way that can be viewed just within the organization or externally with other organizations as well. So what we can see here is we can provide our own personal review, any tips or feedback, and then continue. Now, once that particular item has been done, we will then actually receive points. And this is where gamification is introduced into the app. So gamification in the world of apps is a way to really keep people involved and entertained and engaged with different applications. In this case, this gamification piece is actually going to let us see how we're comparing to others within our organization and keep it fun and light for people that are going through the process over time. We'll also, in just a moment, we'll show you, be able to track how these are actually being done or delivered to the people and the individual direct reports. So in this particular case, we've gained 25 points for completing this particular micro tip. So what it's going to do now, a couple of things. Above, it's going to mention, okay, we're now 4% complete from 0. In the last 10 days, we've achieved 25 points, 0 achievements overall, etc. You can see again that the item has been checked off. So the next question becomes, well, how do I compare to others? We can select here and see how we compare. Now, one thing to keep in mind, once the points have been achieved, at the end of the program, a micro survey is going to go out to our direct reports, and it's going to ask questions around some of those one-on-one activities that we have done. What it'll do is it'll actually confirm that those activities have been completed with those individuals. And once that has been done, we will be able to really see not only is the individual leader coming in here and checking off the activities, but are the direct reports also confirming that those have indeed been completed. That'll give us a lot of insight into the effectiveness of these programs and whether or not these actual activities are being done in a fashion that is really resonating with some of those employees. In addition, as you can see here, how do I compare, we'll be able to track how are people doing not only from a where am I at from a range of styles and climate perspective across my particular peer group, but how do I line up as far as points and achievements are concerned? So once this is populated, as you can see this particular regional sales manager, they get a lot of insight into where they fall with their overall sales team and managers in terms of their range of styles, the climate that they're creating from those assessments, and then the points that they've earned. So this really keeps it a very friendly competition so that individuals are working towards really starting to utilize these new behaviors and leadership styles and thus improve their climate. Now, it's important to note that the gamification piece really is not what triggers the changes in the behaviors. That is really driven by embedding these new behaviors into your everyday activity. The gamification piece just keeps it fun, keeps people engaged, and creates a way for us to really start tracking how it's actually being used. If we scroll down here at the bottom, we can see a change leaderboard. And this is a way to really recognize all of the individuals that are having an impact and improving their styles as well as their climate. So as we can see here, we can see individuals that are really superstars with their climate as well as their range of styles. So Amy, for example, has an extensive range of styles. Might be a way to really talk with Amy or create a way so that people can say, what are you doing differently that we can learn from? We can also see folks like Daniel and Nasheen also have improved their styles and climate levels, and we can learn a lot about, okay, well maybe what's Nasheen doing a little differently that we can also utilize. So it's a way to really create an environment where everybody is starting to really focus on these items, not only improving their styles, but their climate as well. Now you can see at the very top, again, this is how do I compare to my group. It can also be changed to my organization as a whole. You can see for the sample account now it's gone out to an entire organization and the numbers just changed a bit. But it's very helpful for the individual to see where they lie in terms of range of styles, climate, and then of course on the gamification piece, how they're doing from a points and achievements perspective. Now that you've seen the application, what's important to note here is, again, it's a way to keep people very much engaged with the programs that they're going through. It's a way to keep individuals, once they've completed a program and gone through the exercise of learning about themselves and the impact they have on their team, really gives them a chance to ask themselves, okay, how do I start making these changes? And how do I do so in an engaging, fun, easy to track way? And that's really where this app comes into play. It helps organizations and it helps individuals keep track of this over time and actually start making some actionable changes within the organization. So now that you've seen the app, we're going to take some time for questions. Now, I know that was a very quick preview of the application overall. If you have any questions, I'm going to go ahead and unmute the line, or we've received a couple in the chat. I'm going to start with some of the items that we've received via chat. So one of the questions that we got was regarding the physical assessments. So one of the questions was, do we have to go through the assessments to be able to utilize this particular app? And the answer is yes. So in order to use the application, you have to go through the styles and climate assessment. Now, we can provide some additional details, some output samples, so that you can really get acclimated and familiar with the particular assessment. But that is really where all of Hay Group's research and IP gets fed into this tool and thus allows organizations to really start working towards making some of those changes. Now, another question we got was regarding price. Now, in terms of the price, the way that these are priced out is on a monthly basis, and we do have some early adopter discounts. So for annual, basically we quote them in monthly portions. So it's $18 per user per month, which equates to about $216 per user per year. And of course, there are some discounts available for folks that are early users. We have a couple organizations using these globally, and we'd be happy to provide you with some more details regarding those prices. Received another question if this information and the recording will be sent after the demonstration. Again, yes, it will be sent, specifically the recording, because what we did today was a live demonstration rather than going through any particular slide. Okay. Any other questions? I think it might be easier if we just get those sent through the chat feature. Okay. Doesn't look like we have any more questions. And we very much enjoyed speaking and sharing this information with you today. We thank you all for your time. and we will send you an invitation for our next week's webinar around the Pay app. Any questions that you may have, please feel free to let us know, and we'll be sending you some supplemental information soon. Thank you.